Yo, can you hear me? You listening to
WAW. What a week.
Eta, welcome to WOW What a Week, and welcome to part 1 of a 2-part series. Me having a sit-down with the mother of my cubs. Yes, Thabiso Sikwane sitting with me today for part 1 and a part 2 coming up soon. Put on your seatbelts and brace yourselves.
This is WOW. What a week. What a week. Celebrity guest. Celebrity guest.
And our guest is in the building. So we discussed this guesthood about a month ago. And we were saying, are you going to be on the show? Are you not? She's been busy this month. Women on Women's Month become busier than normal. I don't understand. But anyway, so we agreed that she's going to come and do the show. But because she's been a show producer for the past about month and a half, the question was, is she going to produce the show on which she's a guest, or do I do the production? And then I decided, you know what? Actually, I'm going to go with what I've known for the past 25 years. That is my prep. Hello, Tubbs.
Hey, you.
How you doing?
Kishab.
Welcome to WOW What a Week.
It's so surreal. I'm so excited.
Why is it surreal?
Surreal because I've seen incredible, phenomenal women sit in this chair. Surreal because it's something we've never done before. Like I was saying when we first had the conversation, we've never interviewed each other.
No, we haven't.
Combined, 40, 50 years of broadcasting?
Yeah. And the last time we sat across from each other on mics, we were doing a show together at YFM.
That's true.
And that's where the trouble began.
No, that's not the last time. Okay, it was the last time we sat across doing a show.
Yeah.
But I'm just remembering how the last time we sat across from each other, when I was doing my show, when you surprised me for Valentine's Day for All You Need Is Love.
Oh, on SAFM.
Yes.
I arrived from La Dandala.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
No, there was that also.
Yes.
But anyway, welcome.
Thank you.
Wow, what a week. What's the one thing you look at this past week in your life that has you saying, wow, what a week?
The love of God.
Yeah.
Yeah. I might get emotional. I'm constantly...
Oh, yeah, she cries all the time.
I cry all the time.
Like she cries all the time. She will be in a club and then she'll have a conversation with a cleaning lady at the toilet and then she'll come out crying. Like, why are you crying? You went into the loo, now you're crying. And then this woman told her life story and now she wants us to save the... I was like, no, we're not saving everyone. Anyway.
So for context on that, when we were still married and we'd go to work together, we'd go to clubs. That's the context. I think it's important to provide the context, and that was long ago.
Long ago, it was like 6 years ago.
Okay, 6 years. 6 years is a long time. But anyway, so that's the context. So I get emotional every time when I look at my week, I look at my day, and I look back, or even when I start the day, and I'm just constantly in awe of Lerato la Modimo for me. So that's what I look at and I say, wow.
How would you say God has come through for you this week?
God has come through for me by giving me the peace that he talks about in the Bible, in his word. That is my manual for life. About giving me the peace that surpasses understanding.
Sure.
Reminding me that he has not given me a spirit of fear. That fear is there and it's real. But his word says, I've not given you a spirit of fear, but of power, of love, and a sound mind.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love it. So I want us to go like all the way back to the little girl, the little girl Thabiso. What would you say is your fondest memory of your little girlhood?
There's so many. How do I choose?
Pick one.
I think going shopping with my late father.
Yes.
My dad was Brasem. Yeah,
yes.
Brasem was an impeccable dresser. Unarata style, unarata fashion.
Yeah.
And I was actually thinking about it literally like a few weeks ago, thinking, I wonder if he had hoped for a boy when he got me.
Yeah.
because he would take me shopping.
Yeah.
I would have imagined it would have been Mama doing that, but he's the one that would take me shopping. He would always make sure that I had the first of everything when something new came out.
Jewish.
Jewish, Hashem.
Yeah.
So that's one of my fondest memories, that every, month end we'd be shopping Kotopong, Pretoria, what was then Van der Walt Street.
Ah, yes.
I knew all the shops there. We'd go in there, and he'd shop for himself as well. So I knew the shops, both John Craig,
Sure.
the shops that he enjoyed shopping at. There was a shop that used to sell floshans. He'd only buy his floshans there. So that's one of the fondest memories.
Brasam passed away. I don't know what year was
2011.
it? 2011. I remember I was at an ABSA gig when you called me to say that Brasam is gone. And it was a horrible evening because I had work to do, but you're at home and you're not okay.
Yeah.
What do you miss the most about Brasam?
And I didn't bring tissues.
Guys, could you have some tissues, please? I want to need them the whole show. The whole show.
I miss his wisdom.
Yeah.
I miss his naughty sense of humor. He had a naughty sense of humor. And I missed his... he used to love lechapu. That was his favorite fruit.
Watermelon.
He used to love watermelon, and he'd buy it and then he'd slice it. And it was like a ritual.
Sure.
We'd be called, whoever was in the house, you come in, we sit with the tray with the watermelon, and we slice it and we, take out the pips, and we have conversations throughout. And I miss his cooking. He used to cook very well, and he used to love cleaning. I think that's why I find doing dishes as therapeutic. I love doing dishes because of him. But both Mama and Papa loved cleanliness.
Sure.
Papa would be the one who would be, making it an event when he cleaned. He used to have these Bermuda shorts, and my mother used to hate them. Mama hated them, these tartan shorts. And
Sure.
and at some point, they didn't even have a button, so he'd fold them over. But he loved those shorts, and he'd clean katsola. And it would be a thing that he'd spend the whole day cleaning. But half it's out cleaner, the house is spick and span. You can actually smell the cleanliness. And then in between, there'd be the lechapu eating, and whoever is there, would sit and we'd chat, through the lechapu eating, take a break. And he cooked this thing that he called nyula. That was just a mixture of everything. Whatever left over there is, you'd throw it in the pot and he'd make it like this thing that would either come out as a soup or it would come out as something mashed, but it was absolutely amazing.
More often than not, nyula would be a soup made of anything and everything that is left in the house. Basically, that's what a nyula is. You must try it, guys. Especially month end, when the fridge is not fridging. Whatever is left, throw it in water, put it in a pot, and make your nyula.
Nyula.
Do you have tissue, please?
I've actually got in my bag.
What, tissue?
Tissue.
No. There you go.
Why is Keleto hiding herself? Thank you, Keleto.
No, because she's behind the scenes.
She's behind the scenes.
Exactly.
Thank you,
Please put
Keleto.
on your headphones. Thank
I
you
will
very
do
much.
that. Are you going to make me cry? Again?
You're going to cry the whole episode. We're used to it now.
Thabiso here.
It's your mom.
Thabiso has grown to be a straightforward person who tackles issues with respect and dignity, irrespective of one's age.
Is that fine?
Oh, go for this. Okay,
She
let's.
has
Oh no, that's so fixed.
demonstrated so much in the family, and things do change after she has tackled the issue. And was to her children, to her family, is number one. The one thing I remember about her as a baby, she was 2-3 years old when we had death. There was tension in the house, and then because when I came back from work, we didn't kiss. I didn't kiss her dad. Then she said, later on, she said, Mama, I was una Papa. And then, Papa, I was una Mama. We just kept quiet. Then the next thing, Papa, suna Mama. Mama, suna Papa. Then we followed those instructions. And then the situation was quelled. Yeah, there's other things, but it's one that stood out for me.
So you've been the same person since you were a child. You need a solution and you need peace.
Joy, Thabiso.
Tell us about whom we just heard from.
Mama, Mato Diepo. She is the quiet force, the quiet power that I think I've inherited. She's very peaceful. Asimotoratang kharas, you know. And it's the crazy thing that I was thinking about recently as well, thinking about Mati, your mom, about how I have been mothered by women who have so much in common.
Sure.
From that perspective. She's a woman that is so loving, Mato, who is so good at making sure that everything feels okay,
Sure.
even if it's not. And the things that I found out, you know, as an adult about things that happened Kohae, that I thought, how did I not pick it up? How did she make sure that even though there was the turbulence, even though there was the strife, she just made sure that we didn't know. She sacrificed so much. She was a professional nurse by profession, and you know they work crazy hours. And she just would show up even after doing night duty. She'd make sure that arobale, but make sure that before azamaya, that we've got dinner cooked. And I look back and I think sometimes, oh my word, I prayed throughout my life that if I could be half the woman that she, you know, was as a mother, as a wife, as a sister, then I would have been really, really, truly best. And I think I've tried to live up to how she raised us in those different hats and the roles that she wore.
No, she's an epic woman.
She is.
And I don't remember once ever seeing her not at peace. Bombs could be falling, but she's chilled.
She is.
She probably ask, why on a commotion? But you were raised by your aunt, though.
So, I was raised in a very interesting way in that during the holidays, I would be Harangua, and then during the school time for primary school, I would be Middlelands, and then we went to Diepkloof, and then we lived, in fact, I'm lying, it was Middlelands, and then we lived Hillbrow, and then we lived Diepkloof, and then Fourways. So I got a scholarship to do sub A when I used to go to Ikageng Primary School, Kohae.
Sure.
And then I had to then, because of the scholarship, go and live with my aunt. Well, she offered. And so I was with her, you know, that time. And it was a very interesting dynamic in that mama le papa, and it was just me at that time as the firstborn. We have a 4-year age gap between myself and my sister, Kagiso. And so I was alone at home. I was also alone at home, you know, with my aunt Middlelands. A single woman, a very driven woman, a social worker by profession, a very strict, you know, woman, but also so passionate about her work. And I think that's the one thing that was a common thread in terms of the households. Papa was a teacher by profession, very passionate about his work. Mama as a nurse, very passionate. Then my aunt, Mam Holo Ann, very passionate about her social work. So I was raised within an environment of caring for people. I was raised in an environment of being passionate about what you do and what you're called to do. And so that was what was, common between the two households.
Sure.
But yeah, she was my other parent.
So living with Aunt Anne and her being almost the other side of your mom's coin, how did you reconcile the two? That living with Aunt Anne during school terms would be a different environment to living with Mama and Papa during holidays.
The only difference really was just that I was going to school, but everything else was the same. I was raised by very strict households.
Her dad never allowed her to go to the movies. I think your entire childhood you went to one movie.
What one movie? I didn't. The first movie that I ever went to was in high school, in Standard 6. And it was a school outing. And part of the reason I think that he felt it was okay to not allow me to do anything, he really tried at home to keep me busy.
Sure.
I had encyclopedias. He was very passionate as a teacher about education and reading and all of that. So I had Encyclopedia Britannica. I had the other one, Ikilibet, what the other one is. And he used to entertain us, weekends and holidays. He had this huge projector that he'd get movies on. And a garage. So that would be the entertainment side, and we'd invite other kids to come.
Her dad was so protective and didn't want his little girl going to the movies. He bought a projector and brought the movies to the house.
I was trying to remember what movies we actually watched, and I couldn't remember. But yeah, so that's how he made sure, that in terms of just entertainment, that I was always occupied.
Sure.
He'd also take me to school with him as well, because our holidays, when I was on holiday, my friends were still at school because our terms were different. So the biggest difference really was just that when I was here in Joburg, with my aunt, Mamhol, and I was going to school. But another thing I think was just the exposure with my aunt because of her social work, because of her traveling as well. She was, traveling a lot.
And she was a comrade.
And she was, politically active, although I didn't know.
Yeah.
She hid that very well from me. One of the biggest things that was such an aha moment was when I thought back at how, because Nikki Limong, I'd look forward to having company, and the company was in the form of older people who'd come and they'd be there for a week or two and then they'd disappear. And all these people, and I'm thinking they're going to come back, they're not going to come back, and I'd never see them again, only to find later that these were, kids to her, but these were, who would be skipping the country and at home.
So Aunt Anne's house was almost a halfway house.
Yeah.
For comrades who were about to leave the country. But you thought they were just guests.
And some of them were there for a time, not necessarily leaving the country, but they just needed to be, kept safe for a while.
To lie low.
Yes.
There's an epic story about June 16 and Aunt Anne's VW Beetle. Please share that story.
So the VW is called Johnny Walker in the family.
Okay.
It's a 1976 model, and because it just keeps going,
Yeah.
and it's still there. So what happened is, because of the social work that she do, she was, very well known, and that car was known, Komdeni, Pefeni, Dobsonville, Rockville. And it so happened that on the day, June 16, they were burning down the government facilities. And where
anything related to Maburu,
Yes.
which is the system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so where she had parked her car, the building, everything around was burnt, but there were very clear instructions, you don't touch this car.
Wow.
And so that's just one of the stories that she tells us every year, June 16.
So they burnt down the entire municipal buildings, but the Beetle was there
The Beetle
untouched.
is untouched.
That is such an epic story. And the Beetle's still around.
Still there, yeah.
Anyway, we got this. Please put on your headphones.
Again, okay.
Yep.
Hi, Thabiso. This is Auntie Anne. Happy 50th birthday. I wish you many more. I want you to know that you are loved for who you are, a caring and compassionate person who loves family. I have joyfully come to observe and appreciate how you have raised your children to be respectful to everybody with love and gentle care and firmness. Talking about firmness, I recall when, as a primary school child at Macaulay House in the 1980s, we went to a restaurant in town. And in those days, black people were not allowed into some of these places. But you took a seat, like other children, your age, who were sitting waiting for their parents. And a lady came to tell you that you are not allowed to sit in that, to sit there. And you said to her, do you mean children are not allowed to sit here? And this lady said, no, you are not allowed to sit here. She happened to be a white lady. And you said, but why don't you tell these others also to move away? No. And she kept saying, no, you're not allowed to sit here. And you said, you retorted by saying, you are a horrible lady. Why do you want to chase me away and not the others? And this is where I actually, remember how I remember you. And that really struck a chord with me, because for a long time, we would not respond to those kinds of things. We just walk away.
And here you are, a child, fighting injustice.
I think Mamkholo Anne is also downplaying the role that she played in me being that way.
But she raised you.
She raised me, and I would see her in a lot of situations treating everybody like an equal, but also commanding to be treated as an equal.
Sure.
In so many scenarios. So it's something that I didn't know anything different from to do. And she was also very outspoken.
Sure.
Papa was also very outspoken, and so I picked that up from them. But I turned it down a notch.
In fact, I think the reason Aunt Anne and my dad get along is probably because they're wired the same. Like, they get along like a house on fire.
Peas in a pod.
I remember, I think I was in grade 5 or grade 4, and Dad had business to do in Rustenburg. And I was hungry, and I told him I'm hungry. And there was a restaurant across from where he was doing business. And we walked in and we sat down, and a little white lady comes and says, hey, you're not allowed in here. And my dad refused. He's like, no, my child is hungry. Please give us a menu.
Yeah.
We'll only leave after we've eaten.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's you. You are that person also. This woman, when we're in a restaurant, the minute she calls a waiter, I'm like, please don't complain. Please don't complain. Please don't complain. She's the kind of person that says, take this food back and bring it when it's better.
But I say it with love.
No, dude.
Yes, I do.
I'm sure we've eaten saliva in restaurants because of you always complaining. I am sure we have eaten saliva. So yeah, Dad was like, no, my son is hungry, and we're not leaving until you've served us. And he wanted to cause a scene.
I will never forget how gangster Rati was. We call him Rati. When I had forgotten, I think, was it Lifika or one of the children's passports? And at the border going into Botswana, they were refusing him entry. And he said, guys, this is my grandson. You know me. Having been, the political activist that he was, and a prominent businessman and a diplomat. And he says, well, if you are not going to allow me to cross with my son, you'll see to finish how you do it, but he's not going back to South Africa. And they eventually let him cross because he was just so adamant. And he was like telling them truthfully so that this is a system, but it's created by you. And he just was firing shots and they just had no choice. They were like, "Ra, feta," So yeah, that was special.
Now, your aunt talks about you at Macaulay House. Were you one of the first black girls there, or were you the second black girl?
So I was the only black child in my class at the time.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think I was the only black child in my class for the year in sub A, grade 1.
And you're the first black child to play Annie at Macaulay House.
I think I was the first and the last, because I don't know if they ever did the production again, but it was really, really special. I love music. I love stage, and I used to do speech and drama. But I was always a performer, because I even Liko Kreshi, they'd always, pick on me to do the sketchy, And so there were auditions for Annie, the production, and I got the role of Annie. And it was the funniest thing.
But this is at the height of apartheid. Though.
Yes.
Weren't white parents complaining, or you wouldn't know?
One, I wouldn't know, but also because any such a beautiful story, I never got any negative feedback,
Sure.
whether before or after, but also because I think Macaulay House was a school that was really, really amongst those that was tackling racism. They weren't there yet, but they were tackling racism
Yeah, like
genuinely.
Wits, they were like, everyone belongs here.
Yes, you know, and although there were pockets and there were things underlying that were about racism. I mean, for instance, one of the things that eventually led me to writing the book that I wrote, that we'll talk about later, was everything being white. The statues were white, and it's something that I was very concerned about, everything is white. The books, the literature we read, everything, the kids were white, everything was white, and that's something that stood out for me. The hymns, the books, everything was in English, and I couldn't relate to anything. Not having been taught English at home, my father was very pedantic. My family, all of them, you know, my aunt, just as a family, very pedantic about, you're not going to learn and or speak English. Our toys, I never had a Barbie toy. My first doll was called Mansunyana,
Sure.
for obvious reasons. And I've never owned a black doll.
But that name is so offensive. Though. How can you call a doll Mansunyana?
And then it was that weird color. It was that greenish, grayish color. When I look at it now, recently, when I found it about 2 years ago, I looked at it and I thought, this looks scary. I don't know how I even played with it as a child, but which is why we never had our children have Barbie or any white dolls,
Sure.
etc. So, so that's my, the memories with Annie. It was a beautiful production, and I got feedback and beautiful compliments.
Okay, the gate at the house rings on here. It's been ringing. Hello. Sharp. The pool people.
I told them they must tell me what time they're going to come. They don't
Okay,
give
sharp.
times.
All right. Okay, it's the pool people.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank
Anyway,
you.
Hey, you were saying.
So I got really positive feedback, but I also think because, by God's grace, I did the role well. They didn't have space to complain. The one thing that I remember, though, that had made me really sad was my parents not being there.
Yes.
And that's the one thing that I lament to this day about your so-called Model C schools and schools in general, because they have things at night where black parents are working, busiku. And for me, my parents were in Garangua. Mama being a nurse, it wasn't easy then to say, let me take the day off as it is now, where companies understand, things like that.
Or defy the Group Areas Act and travel to another city without a pass.
And then public transport as well, because
Exactly.
Mama were not mobile as yet by that time. So that's the one thing. It was just something that I longed for, to look into the audience and see my parents.
One thing I love and appreciate about you is how passionate you are about representation. Not just, looking at, for instance, you saying you'd look at even the statues at the school and they'd be white. The characters in the books would all be white children. This woman, guys, when there's a parent-teacher meeting at schools where our kids are, when she stands up, they know she's going to say, why are there no black teachers here? So you've been about that, though, that you will ask, why is the only black person on your school property at Lina? What are you saying to our children? Why are you so passionate about representation?
God has created us all as equals. God has given us gifts and talents that are valuable. We are all, each and every person, regardless of your socioeconomic background, you've got money or not, your surname, the language you speak, what you look like. We are all so vital as part of this puzzle piece, Yamudimu.
Sure.
And it's important that we are all given and we are able to take the space that Mudimu has given us, and it's not given by a human being. And that's just something that we were raised with as well.
Sure. So whenever you stand up at some of these parent-teacher meetings, do you ever feel like they say under their breaths, oh, here we go again?
I know they do. I know they do. But it was so nice, the last meeting that we had, where they were discussing the languages, the Setswana, the the vernacular languages as part of the curriculum because they're going to change it when Lifika goes to school. And I kept quiet this time, and I made just one comment. And I deliberately didn't comment about everything that I wanted to. And it was so nice to see other parents raising the things that I was keeping quiet about, which was really good because even afterwards we'll have conversations privately where people will be agreeing with me, but they're not comfortable to speak.
Exactly.
So it's not that I'm the only one who's got these concerns, just that babang bataba, you know?
And I think as parents generally, we can learn from this woman. You need to stand up and tell the school exactly what you expect from them for your own children.
We pay a lot of money. And I remember with Tato, our firstborn, when we went through, when I felt, and we had a conversation about it, they were wanting to do all these sorts of therapy. And all it was a language issue because as well.
Or the kids grow up not speaking English at
Yes.
all, by the way. So when they get to these schools, all they speak is Venek.
So it was a language issue. And to say to the teachers, a child is not going to understand anything because they just don't have the language and the vocab to understand. So you help creatively in some way to make sure that he understands these concepts, and it's a language thing. We're not going to be paying for speech therapy. We're not going to be putting on Ritalin because Barry, he's restless. Obviously, he's going to be restless because he's bored.
Yeah,
you know?
he feels left out.
And it's so sad that a lot of Black parents are hoodwinked into panicking and then having to spend money on drugs and putting their kids on Ritalin simply because our school system does not accommodate children learning differently, children understanding concepts and the world differently, which is a pity that is still happening today. But there is an awakening about that.
Absolutely. Speaking of your son.
Headphones.
Hello, mi madre, dumelang, saubona, nda, mudibonji. I don't know what other language you're learning that I can.
Oh yeah, she'll greet you in your language, no matter where you are.
Hello, mom. With so much love and honor in being your son, in being your first eldest, in being your first son, as well as being the eldest, that you're so proud of in all that I'm doing and in who I'm becoming, which leads me to expressing my gratitude for you being my mom, being the supportive mom that you are towards me in every endeavor that I have brought up to you. Every day you encourage me to aim for the sky and never forget who I come from, whose child I am, and who is the creator of all that I am achieving in life and wanting to achieve in life. It is only through your constant reassurance of Mudimu being the source of everything that I purely believe in being able to achieve anything I put my mind to. You have literally held me down through every hardship that I have expressed to you, in every uncomfortable situation that I've been in life, in the biggest stresses that I've had to encounter growing up. You've held me down and created a man that I would have never imagined becoming had you not been there for me. So, Mom, thank you for being my mom. I love you so, so much. And today, or right now, I honor you and always.
Tell us about that young man.
You're determined to spoil my Einstein hairstyle, ne? This young man, so proud of him, you know. I said somewhere, I can't remember if Nerebua or if it's something that we were texting, Horino, whatever else that we may have failed at Mopilong, Katato by God's grace, him having been our first child, raising him, not knowing what we're doing as first-time parents together.
And when he was born, we were so busy with career that often there were relatives at some stage having to raise him. They would ship him to Botswana. There'd be a babysitter coming. It was wild.
Ship him to Garankua, Komama.
So the fact that he turned out the way he did, I'm on some wow.
That's one of the things that I get emotional about when I do, the WAW, Kamudimo's Love. And the one thing that with young parents that I talk to, having learned from our experience, is always just your children more than anything. They just want your time.
Sure.
And it's not a bad thing to want to provide for our children. It's a good thing. But then we tend to lose sight of children. They don't even care about half these things. Yes, it'll be wonderful that, we got to take him to Thailand, we got to take him to Dubai, we got to do things with him. And those are memories that he'll treasure. But one of the biggest lessons I've just learned in terms of parenting, and from what we went through with him and how he's turned out to be, is just time is valuable to give to your children as parents.
What have you learned about Thabiso through motherhood and mothering 3 different children at different stages in your life?
I'm going to go back even one and talk about the 4.
Yeah.
With Renee.
Yes, Renee is my daughter from just out of high school.
That was my first experience of mothering. And again, it just goes back to God.
Okay, let's go back to me and you are starting our relationship.
Yeah.
And then my daughter visits.
Yes.
What was going through your mind before you met her?
So because we'd had conversations about the dynamics around Renee, her mom, what the situation was, that she'd come over Kadi holidays, that, her mom, Teboho, would bring her sometimes, or that she'd come other ways and come spend time here. Because we'd had conversations about her, I was at ease about the dynamics, because sometimes it can be nerve-wracking if there are dramas and issues around that. So that being absent, it was just a case of, okay, how are we going to relate?
Absolutely.
And because she was 6, was she 6 or 8 when I first met her? But anyway, so she was still young, and I know that children at that age are very easy to get along with. If your souls connect, it's fine, because kids are very sensitive. If children do not like you, they don't hide it. And so
I always say, if your dog or your child has bad energy with a person, believe it.
Not true.
They're never wrong.
I will never forget how, do you remember Auntie Jolane, who used to work for us?
Yes.
Lifika could not stand her, and he never hid it, and he never liked her. And it always used to bother me, because he was too young for me to ask, why don't you like her? So that's true. Children, are very intuitive.
Sure.
So when I met Renee and we clicked from the word go, it was just a beautiful thing. My biggest thing was just that, will we click?
Sure.
Yeah.
And you clicked.
And we clicked. We still do.
What do you say to people who are going into relationships where there is another child? What were your learnings about learning to mother someone else's child and maintaining boundaries, but not having those boundaries shut the love out also, and the respect?
So what helped was that, Teboho, Renee's mom, and your relationship allowed me to be at ease about how I relate to Renee. And so the advice that I give is based on my experience as a child, not having lived fully with my parents, and having had situations where, in as much as Mama Kholo was loving, providing in every sense, a parent is a parent, and a child just wants a parent. A child just wants love and wants time, wants attention. And my learning, but also again from my upbringing, is that children are innocent. And Rona, as adults, we make bad decisions, we make selfish decisions, we make decisions that complicate children's lives unnecessarily. And so the child must always be at the center and understood to be untarnished by whatever has happened between me and you, by whatever has happened between you and the mother's child. And that's always been my principle. And that's how I also approached Renee as well, understanding that she's a child, and all a child is very innocent in this whole situation.
Please put on your headphones.
Again.
Yes, we have a message from Renee. Renee is my firstborn. Renee is what, 30?
She's naughty. I spoke to her yesterday.
Hi,
she didn't
guys.
tell me this.
What I love about Thabiso is that she is selfless, she is loving, she is caring. and she is God-fearing. This woman is a Jesus freak, like 100%. And one memory that I have of myself and her that I still hold dear to my heart is how she introduced me to womanhood, if I should call it that. When I turned 18, she took me for my first ever face beat and also getting my nails done. She taught me a lot on that day. And if I may add another memory, Mio was in South Africa. I don't remember the year. And I remember we had to dress smart casual, if I'm not mistaken. And I was wearing heels. And it was my first time wearing heels. And yeah, they were giving me a very hard time. I remember she was laughing at me when I was walking. And I remember at the door, they also asked me where my heels were. And I was like, I can't. And Shema was having a hard time. And Ma, I love you so much. You have been such a great inspiration to myself and my kids. They talk about you all the time, asking where you are. We love you so, so, so much. Continue being the God-fearing woman that you are. Love you so much. Mwah.
That's my daughter and accountant.
Oh, she's your daughter now.
Sorry, this is our daughter and my accountant. Guys, don't have your children be your accountant because they hound you and they hound you. You know, you can switch off your phone from your accountant because you want peace. But when your accountant is your daughter, you can't avoid the call. And then you think she's calling because she misses you and she loves you. But she's like, where is the statement I asked for?
And I'm so proud of how she's become so... Renita was very soft-spoken and quite timid. And I'm so proud of how, when it's necessary, she's become very
found her voice.
Firm, and she's found her voice. That is so beautiful to see.
I remember saying to her at one stage about how I think she's one of the most blessed children ever because she had 4 sets of grandparents. Because her mom married, and then there was grandparents on both sides. We're married, there's grandparents on both sides. I was telling her, you're the only person I know with
so many.
with 4 sets of grandparents that are all still alive.
And who love her.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, raising children that are not yours, 101. What did you learn about yourself? Or rather, children that you didn't carry yourself?
I didn't answer that question.
Yes.
It was just about the power of God's love.
Yeah.
The scripture that God has raised me with to be able to do everything that I've done as a parent, as a former wife, as a friend, has been 1 Corinthians 13, verse 4-8, which is part of the definition of love. And that is what I've learned about myself, that I am capable of loving. And it's a beautiful gift to have been given and to be able to give.
Now, earlier on, we spoke about representation, especially within certain spaces where you can't be at a school and the entire staff complement is white, save for the garden guy who's black and the cleaner who's black. And you've been a champion for that at every school our kids have gone to. You've been a thorn in the side of the system at every school our kids have gone to. But you've also written a book.
Yes.
That talks about God's love.
Thank you.
Tell us about that book.
So this book, which camera am I looking into?
Oh, that's your camera there.
That's my camera. So
Yeah.
this book is called Modimo wa Horata.
Okay.
And it's a book that talks about children of all
Why am I not
skin
on there as
hues.
executive producer?
As executive producer?
Yes,
You're on there differently, not executive
I'm not
producer.
credited, but
You
anyway, it's fine.
are.
Carry
You
on.
are. You
No,
are
it's fine.
credited.
Carry on.
Must I read where you're
It's
credited?
fine,
You
it's
are
fine.
credited. Just shows how long ago you read it. So the book really talks about representation in that no matter what you look like, your hair texture, whether you can hear
it's a
or
children's
not,
book.
it's a children's book
Okay.
that talks about God's love and how He loves us. It doesn't matter where you live. You live in a mkuku, you live in a big house, and it's also about children that are raised differently, children that have skin conditions, and just about the talent that all children have. the gifts that I'll tell you about that we all have. And I've written it as part of the representation in the 7 languages so far. It's translated into 7 languages so far. And
so what languages can I get that book in right now?
so right now you can get it in Setsonga, you can get it in English, you can get it in Afrikaans. It's bilingual.
Okay.
You can get it in Setswana.
Okay, so
you get
each
it in
page has a
Sesotho.
translation.
So each page is written such that as you read from one column to the next, this is the vernacular and this is the English translation.
So,
Yes.
you can actually learn other languages as you read.
And I've seen, interestingly enough, that because a lot of, say, even our generation who have been raised ka Sekgowa, who've lost touch with Setswana or Sesotho, or are not familiar with it at all.
Unknown caller.
They are saying, those who have bought the book, that I'm actually learning in terms of reading, because we can speak the language, many of us, but not write it and read it.
Sure.
So it's a learning as well. So as I was saying, it's Xhosa as well. And the English one is just English on its own.
And how's the response been, and where do people support God Loves You?
They can go onto my Instagram page, and all the information is there. Currently selling it also through a WhatsApp number that's on the Instagram page that I don't know of by heart.
What's the
but
Instagram
everything.
page? What's the Instagram page?
My Instagram handle, which I don't know. I don't know my Instagram handle. Hey,
Yeah.
I think it's Thabiso Sikwane or underscore Sikwane. I'm so bad at this. This is embarrassing.
They'll find it.
They'll find it. Just put in Thabiso Sikwane, you'll find my Instagram handle.
And then getting that maybe as a set book for early learning. How's that going, and is it a possibility?
So the one thing that was such a big shock to me, although I knew it from just, my knowing that our education system is very secular. So pushing anything Christian into your government schools is a huge hurdle,
Sure.
which is fine and I've accepted. So right now the approach that I'm taking is just aiming it at low-hanging fruits,
Okay.
with targeting Christian schools and independent schools. But one of the other things that I'm also doing is I'm approaching schools for book readings.
Yes.
I did one at Lufika School, and it was received so well. So I've created a program, a 30-minute program where I sit with the kids and we do conversations around the book and the issues that are raised, because it talks about colorism, it talks about children and people who are differently abled, it talks about socio-economic issues, and we have interactive conversations. I've also written a song that teaches about God's love. It's called Modimo Khorata. We sing and dance to that, and we have a competition about the best dancer, the one who sings it best. So if you're a parent at a primary school and you would like to invite me to come and do the reading with the kids, that's what I'm doing as well. Embarking on a nationwide tour, and that's something that I'm really, really passionate about. It's such a beautiful thing to see children's eyes wide open and them getting what this is about. And what I did every now and then, and I do as well, is I go with my friend Masingita Masunga, who has cerebral palsy, because for some children it's something that they can't grasp as a concept, that somebody does not look like me, somebody is not able to do what I do. And so when she's available, I also go with her. Then she speaks about being differently abled, but how we are all created equally with different gifts, and which is what the message of the book is about.
It's incredible.
Thank you.
I love how you talk about colorism, but your first black doll was called Mansunya.
Better that than having a Barbie doll.
Oh, poor Mansunya.
But you know what it also says?
Yeah.
You know how our parents, filter, they just speak.
Yes,
There was
yes.
a lot of just pa.
In fact, my dad, unfortunately, is in his element when it comes to that honesty now.
Yeah.
And my mom is literally blocking all the time.
She's done that for a while. It's just that it's getting intense now.
Guys, yo.
Remember the story about Omaswe?
No. There was a family event about 15
It was a
years ago.
funeral.
It was a funeral. Yeah, about 15 years ago, and a young lady came and introduced herself. And my dad is like, "No, I could see you're ugly nyana like your mother."
And then he tries to get out of it. When Mati, his mom, nudges him to say, she's like, "Nah, why you can't tell me like it?" But how do you?
We were at a tombstone unveiling of my great aunt about a month ago, and said to my mom, "Are you sure you want to be here with your man? Because he's going to ask for the mic." So as the MC is speaking, Dad puts up his hand and is like, I'm not happy with how my son was introduced. So can you please read? So I had to stand up because it was a boys' trip. It was me and the boys. So we had to stand up and be introduced again because Dad was like, nope. Until you've done the introduction.
Man, he's somewhere else.
What a legend. You know what? Things are heating up. So I think I'm going to cut it here. Part 1 of me sitting down with show producer Thabiso Sikwane, who also happens to be the mother of my cubs. Part 2 coming out soon. Coming to you from AMP Studios, downtown Johannesburg. We are part of the Africa Podcast Network. Shout out to Trevor and Pezulu works for the cinematography, Artista Flo Fraser for all of our imaging, show producer Thabiso Sikwane, and executive producer Keletso Modisakeng. Till next week, have a wow week in spite of yourselves.